Hello, I just got gyno surgery. Go ahead, make your jokes. I'm in a fucking bra. I know. Now that we got that out of the way, I want to talk about my match with Auden because I didn't want to talk about it till the match was posted because I just wanted people to see it first, get it out there. I should probably take some of this off. I got these blood drains. I don't even know if YouTube will let me show them. See all the fucking blood in there? It goes through my armpit and into my nipple. It's on both sides, but the right side is way worse. So I can't really, what's the word? Not emote. Is it emote? This isn't fucking Fortnite. Anyway, I guess we'll just talk about the match first. So, I lost 3-1. To all those who staked on me, I'm sorry. I really thought I had a good shot. I thought, towards the end, I thought it was like 65-35. I really thought that I was gonna win, but the experience gap was a bit much. And I made some fatal flaws. It wasn't just an experience gap, it was also me getting in my own head and getting overwhelmed, which I guess is an experience gap because the more experienced you are, the less that tends to happen. I guess we'll just talk about the match first. We'll talk about Auden's strengths, Auden's weaknesses, my strengths, my weaknesses, and what happened. Round one, I set up, okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to grab a drink because this requires a little story time. So, the night before the match, I've never had nerves this bad. I just got gyno surgery, and you guys know I fucking hate surgery. My nerves were 10 times worse for the match with Auden than for my gyno surgery. It's crazy. I was drip sweating the night before. Saturday at around 4 to 5 p.m. is when Chance Shaw was telling us we can expect to pull. So I figure, okay, it's around, at this point, 11 p.m. the night before, and I know that if I don't get sleep, I'm gonna fucking lose, 100%. It's about 11 p.m. and I'm drip sweating. Gianna's already comfortably sleeping. She's, we're cuddled up and I am pouring out sweat. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need to go the nuclear option and take a sleep cocktail. I took some Xanax, I took ashwagandha, and I took 25 milligrams of doxylamine, which is an antihistamine. This will accumulate into a climax here in a second. Histamine is responsible for alertness. An antihistamine makes you tired because it makes you unalert. The half-life of doxylamine is like 11 hours or something kind of long, so you still have a decent amount of doxylamine in your system the next day, inhibiting histamine. Blah, blah, blah. Let me get to the point. Xanax as well. You ever had Xanax hangover? Yeah. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I can either get a bit of a Xanax hangover tomorrow for the match, but honestly, I'd rather have that than getting no sleep or getting very little sleep because I'm tossing and turning thinking about the match. And also, honestly, I think I can just overcome that with adrenaline. I think that shit's not gonna matter because I'm gonna be so fucking hyped up once I get to the event. My adrenaline's gonna be through the roof. I'm gonna take a bunch of Respawn, which is this gorilla product, which I did end up taking. I'm gonna double scoop it. I'm gonna be stimmed up. I'm gonna be adrenalized. I'll be good. It's not gonna matter if I have a little bit of Xanax left over in my system, a little bit of ashwagandha, some antihistamine. So I wake up, I sleep like a fucking rock. I sleep 10 hours, don't wake up once. And I wake up without a worry in the world. I wake up around 11, the match is at like 4 p.m. And I notice that I don't give a shit about the match. I'm like, Jason, my buddy Jason came over from Houston. I'm like, dude, let's go get some food. I'm hungry. I want to eat some eggs, some bacon. We're already pushing it on being kind of late for the event. So we get to this diner and I'm eating pancakes, I'm happy, I'm chill, I don't give a shit. Not a nerve in my body. And I'm like, whatever, I'll be good by 4 p.m., I'll wake up, man, I'll be good. We get to the event around 1:30 p.m. There's already a match or two that's gone. There's testosterone in there, people are yelling, voices being raised, and I'm like, I still really just don't give a shit about this upcoming match I have. I'll be fine. I got, 4 hours, 3 hours, but I'll be good. I'll hype myself up, take some Respawn. The matches keep going on. We're match number 13. Match number 5 rolls around. Match number 6 rolls around. Number 7. And I'm like, okay, we're probably about an hour and a half away from my match. I'm still really no nerves at all, which is not good. You want nerves, right? Like, you got something big coming up, you want nerves. You want to be explosive, you want to fight. I wanted to go up there and cuddle Auden, dude. I wanted to go be like, Auden, man, this is gonna be a good match, man. Like, I didn't give a shit. And it was starting to scare me because I was aware of this. And I'm like, okay, I need to start taking Respawn now. Like, I need to start taking that gaming supplement I told you about. it was a gaming supplement because it doesn't have any pump products in it. That's why I chose that. So I start drinking it. I double scoop. I put 2 scoops in a water bottle and I'm sipping it pretty fast. Still kinda a little bit zombie, no nerves. I start, warming up with Jason, thinking if I start pulling, I'll wake up a little bit. And at this point, it's like 30 minutes out from the match. So I just take the rest of the Respawn in the bottle and shake it up and chug it, hoping it just all hits me at once. And then it hits our match. They call my name. I walk out there and I'm just like, I do my walkout. I'm still way too chill. And I'm like, fuck, dude. So I get to the table. Auden does his walkout. He's ready. He's already sweating. He's like drip sweating, which low-key kind of intimidated me because that means he's nervous. And when you get nervous, when you get into that fight or flight, you get explosive, you get powerful, right? Because your brain thinks, oh, you're gonna die. So it gets super into it. I didn't have a drop of sweat on my face. And I'm like, okay. I start to wake up the tiniest bit at the table, but anyway, round 1, there was a bit of a false start. We'll get into that after, but point is, I could tell I wasn't ready. Round 2, obviously I want to slip. My goal is to slip, get to ref's grip first, and then slip, and then go to straps. I go up to the table, and I set up deep and high. Even though to slip against Auden, the smartest move would be to set up shallow and low so that I can dump my riser and slip underneath him. Like just kind of like this. I can't show you the motion because of my gyno, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Instead of trying to post up out of their hand, you set up super shallow, like you have a shitty grip, and you just kind of roll out of their hand. What the fuck was I thinking? Like looking back on that, I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? I set up deep and high against someone with a big hand who's taller than me. So that match I just deserved to lose, or that round I just deserved to lose. Round 2, like what the fuck was I even doing? I don't know. The thing that fucking burns me is I never did that in practice. I never had a problem slipping in practice. I always slipped shallow and underneath. Like if I was going against Mika, his arms are about as long, maybe a little bit longer, and hands a little bit bigger than Auden. Anytime I would slip, like practicing slips against Mika, I'd always like set up shallow and just dump my riser. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. Anyway, we go to round 3. And finally, between round 2 and 3, when I'm in my corner, I finally remembered, wait, what am I doing? I gotta slip. I gotta be shallow. Boom, slip under. Very easy that time. I almost didn't even have to try. It just slipped. And I'm like, okay, finally, we can actually... And my head is like, now we're starting the super match. I don't know what the fuck I did the first 2 rounds. Well, the first round, we'll get into that, but I don't know what the fuck I was doing. I just wasn't ready. And honestly, even with the false start in the first round, if I had just set up correctly, it wouldn't have mattered. I could have slipped anyway. So that's still kind of on me. Round 3, we do that, get ref's grip, get to straps. And he goes for, I would say his classic move, like his ace. He just kind of tries to, I'm thinking off the top of my head right now, but it seemed like either a posting top roll or a low hand top roll, but he wasn't doing anything fancy. It was just surge to the side and pronate. And that went right into my power because my finger containment is very, very good. And I actually got a decent setup that time. The refs, I will say, round 3, they were fair. When I say fair, I mean not like intentionally. They just happened to get us a fair grip where I felt a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm like, okay, this is manageable. And Auden probably felt the same way. What I've heard is that like if you guys both feel a little bit uncomfortable in ref's grip, that probably means you have a fair grip. So he surged. You guys can go watch the video. And I wouldn't say stonewalled because he moved me, but like I was pretty fucking solid there. And then the second surge, his pronator went. So he surged into me and I just maintained my cup. And because of that, his pronator went and then everything else went with it. And I was able, as soon as that happened, I lat dragged, got really tight, and then boom to the side. Screamed in his face. It was extremely fucking cathartic, just like letting out. That's finally when I locked in my head. That's when all the antihistamine kind of lag and the Xanax kind of zombie, that all went away. And I was finally fucking awake and ready to tear his head off metaphorically. I love you, Auden. So I felt good, but I also knew you fucked yourself a little bit because you wasted the first 2 rounds. This could have been 1-0 if you had locked in, but because you didn't, now you're starting from 2-1. All he has to do is get 1 more pin and you're done. And that's exactly what happened. Round 3, instead of just trying to drive sideways and back with a top roll, he instead focused on kicking his wrist. Let me let my cat out. I know this is long-winded, but you guys have been asking me about, oh, fuck, my nipples hurt. You guys have been asking me, so I'm here to deliver. Round 4, we slip, and he kicks back and rises rather than going, like I said, for that kind, just like a basically standard fundamental top roll where you're, you know, cupping and getting back pressure and going sideways. I can't even do these motions right now. But instead, he sets up and he kicks his wrist back. Do you think, why would you kick your wrist back? It's because it creates this space and it attacks my top knuckles in a way that it's very hard to even describe. And he does this momentarily and rises. So he creates space, doesn't grip down with his fingers, just kicks back, creates space, rises, pronates slightly, and then goes over the top. And this completely eliminates my pronation. I still have my wrist intact. I'm not super cupped in like this, but I'm also not kicked back, which I will give myself a pat on the back if I could. But now I'm in this position where my wrist is only slightly cupped and I'm basically in a king's move or getting to a king's move. It's Auden's whole body on my bicep and cup. This is not good for me. So once he started surging, I elbow fouled like pretty aggressively and got a rematch, but I still, like I said, I was just overwhelmed thinking about too much. I needed to calm down and focus and think, what is he doing? How do I counter this? And what fucking sucks, what burns me still, is that I did this with Mika. Mika said Auden might do this, and we practiced it, and I figured out, oh, okay, I just have to mirror that. I have to do the same thing. I also have to if he does that, I have to kick my wrist back and rise, and then pronate and just go sideways, kind of like what Levon did to Devon, right? But I forgot it. Like, I forgot my training, and it sucks that it's like, it's my fault, you know? Like, I don't know. I just wish I could go back and whisper in my own ear and be like, dude, you did this with Mika. Remember, kick your wrist back, just copy what he's doing. But instead I just, you know, because I got the restart from the foul, I go for the same thing again. And now people think I'm a big fat noob. And it's like, well, yeah, I am in super matches, but I knew how to do this. Like, I fucking knew what to do. I just forgot it in that moment because it was so I was just so kind of overwhelmed and focused on so many things at once and kind of starting to lose my cool. Anyway, that's the match. I want to talk about some other things now relating to the match. I've seen some of the most vitriolic, hate-filled comments towards Auden after this match. I've seen it under Devon's videos. I've seen it under the official match that Chance posted. Fair, constructive criticism is totally fine. I can see why some people might want to criticize Auden for this or that in a constructive way, but some of these things that people are saying are fucked up, like really fucked up. And I can't imagine saying that to someone unless I fucking hated them. I don't know. I just think some people don't really understand the effects that can have on someone. You know, I know Auden's headstrong. I know he's not going to let little things affect him like that, but ultimately it doesn't matter how strong you are. That shit is not nice to read, especially when you're 19 and you're new to making content. Let's just keep it more civil. People should just keep it more civil. Just ripping them apart, I don't see how that contributes to anything. That's one thing I wanted to say. Now, I want to talk about Auden's strengths and weaknesses. I want to talk about my strengths and weaknesses. I think Auden, his hand and wrist, well, actually, what's even the difference? I don't know, like hand and wrist, people always use them. I guess hand would be like cup and like grip, and wrist would be pronation. I actually think his wrist could use a little bit of work, and I only say that because when he surged in the round 3, you can see the second surge, his pronation folds over. And from there, it was pretty quickly downhill. I don't think that's going to be an issue for him long term. I think the progress that I think the Devon lift, that's the way to go. And his progression on it, he was hitting like 80 pounds with Gabriel Young only a few months ago, and now he's hitting like 101. So if he just keeps building on that, he's gonna have a rock solid pronation there. I don't think he's gonna get that wrist folded over. But his hand, honestly, his hand is like elite, at least for his age. His hand is really, really, really good. And his technique is flawless. Like the mental game, he's already got it down completely. His adjustments that he makes, when he fucks up one round, he immediately finds the adjustment. And you could say, oh, well, Devon probably told him that adjustment. It's one thing to hear an adjustment to make. It's another thing to execute it perfectly. Auden executed it perfectly immediately. So, I don't think Auden needs to work on his technique. I don't think he needs to work on his hand. Like those two things, he's got down to a science, and he's able to pull with someone, watch their videos, and see exactly where their weaknesses are. Not just general weaknesses like, oh, he's got a weak inside game. Very specific weaknesses, like he knows exactly what the game plan is. So he knows how to take your strength away from you, and I think that's maybe his biggest strength. I think the only thing Auden needs to work on is just his raw power, his horsepower, which he's doing right now. He's training general strength. I think Auden's gonna be a menace. In a couple years, I think he's gonna be a fucking menace. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Auden going up against top 10 guys. This sounds audacious, but top 10 guys in like the 105 kilo in like, I'll be conservative and say 3 years, but it might even be shorter than that. It really might even be shorter than that. If he takes his general strength seriously, he's gonna be a fucking killer, dude. So yeah, those would be the strengths and weaknesses, I'd say. Needs to work on his inside game a bit, but his inside game's not bad. Outside game's really good. Good high hook. I mean, the high hook fucking killed me. Yeah, I would just say overall, just lean bulking, keep doing what he's doing, working on general strength in the off season when he's not like prepping for something. And that's really it. And that's easy. That's the easy part. He's already got the technique down. He's got the great hand down. Now it's just like get your lifts up and get some muscle mass. Boom. That's the fun part. That's the easy part. So I'd honestly just say it's a matter of time for him. Yeah. And then my strengths and weaknesses, I need to get way better at just like fighting for what I need, fighting in the setup. I don't really like fighting in the setup. I really like ref script. I really like a strict ref script, but ultimately if it's not gonna change, if the ref script is gonna stay kind of loosey-goosey, then I need to get used to that. So that's something that I need to work on, my timing, etc., etc., etc. I think everything else is pretty good for my current experience level and body weight. My inside game is good. I think my hand and wrist is actually quite good. I think my top roll needs some work though. Just in terms of technique, I need to figure out, that needs to be a really viable option for me. And right now, it's not something that I ever start with. I never like set up for a top roll. That's something that I would like to get really good at. Okay, here's something that I saw in a few comments, a lot of comments. Auden, what the fuck is this with him pulling James across the table and trying to gas out his hand after he already got pinned, right? In round 3, after I pinned him, he like pulled my hand across the table, and he wasn't actually applying that much pressure. I think he just, first off, I pinned him and then screamed in his face, and our foreheads bumped together. So honestly, I'm kind of the dickhead there. I didn't mean to. I actually apologize, you can't hear it on camera, but I like screamed in his face and said, I'm gonna fucking kill you in the straps, man. And then quietly, I'm like, hey, sorry if I hit you in the head, by the way, because I did feel bad. I like bonked his forehead. But I think he just didn't, you know, you got a dude screaming at you. I think he's just kind of trying to get in my head a little bit, showing me like, this is what's going to happen to you next round, man. I'm going to pin you down here. He didn't really gas out my hand. If anything, he helped me kind of get the pump out because he was like stretching my hand out for me. I didn't think anything of that. Just know that. So if you guys are like getting mad on my behalf, it's stupid. It's stupid. All right, here's the big enchilada. Reffing. A lot of people were pissed about the reffing, not just in my match, but there was a lot of matches. People said the reffing the whole event was too lackadaisical. And even after our match, Auden said, I remember it, because we were talking about the false start in round 1. He's like, yeah, I don't know why they didn't call that. He kind of laughed. We both laughed about it. And he was like, hey man, this is East versus West. It's the Wild West. So I think they took the Wild West a little too literally. I think they should maybe, it's like, you don't want that boring fucking WAF where every little tiny ass thing gets called, because then you just never get an arm wrestling match and it is boring as shit to watch. So I totally understand why they don't do that. I don't want to see a boring match where like they take 20 minutes to close the thumbs, close the hands, don't move. Oh my god, you moved a hair, that's a foul. That's fucking boring. And like if your elbow comes off a micrometer, they're like, that's an elbow foul. No one wants to see that. But you also can't have the other end of the spectrum where it gets too loose. I don't think East versus West in Challenger Series is there, but with this last Challenger Series, I think they were bordering on it a little bit, where it's like, okay, some stuff that definitely should have been called, not just in my match, but in every match, wasn't really called, especially with false starts, especially in ref grip. Like if you guys saw the Dane Stellers versus Ahmed, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his last name. There was some shit, if you watch closely, that they kind of just closed the hands and said, you guys have at it. So that's just my thoughts. I think the rules need to get a little tighter, but you also want to keep the spirit of like letting the guys fight it out. Just maybe not to the degree of Wild Westness that they have right now. So a lot of people saying, how did you stonewall Auden in round 3 but then got beaten in round 4? Honestly, like, well, round 3 we got like an even setup, and round 4 not so even, but he also changed his tactic. He did a completely different move in round 4, and that's the thing. I don't know. People were saying, oh, James, we know who the real winner is. I saw a few comments saying that. I don't like thinking like that. I don't like thinking, if only the fucking reffing had been different, I would have won. I think Auden would have won. I do think that it would have been a better fight, though. Maybe 3-2 instead of 3-1. It would have been more entertaining, but I still think Auden would have won because he just felt so strong. Like, yeah, sure, maybe he had a couple millimeters of webbing, but when he made that adjustment, he felt really fucking strong, and I just am not confident that I would have been able to beat that, even if we did get a perfect setup. That's the thing. People were saying, first off, some people were saying this was an upset. Oh my god, Auden beats James English in a big upset. I'm like, the fuck upset are you talking about? For the first like week, the stakes were open. $0 were staked on me. The only reason people started staking on me is because my followers were like, oh shit, James is competing, I'll throw some money on him. But the actual arm wrestling community, everyone was staking on Auden. And even once I got that pin on Mika in practice, the staking didn't go up too much. It was mostly my followers putting money on me. It seemed to me that almost everyone was giving the slight favor to Auden. So I don't know why this would be a big upset. After our left-hand match the night before, I guess some people changed their minds and were like, oh, you know, maybe I give the slight favor to James now. But yeah, I just thought it was funny that people were like, thought it was a big surprise. I thought I was the underdog the whole time, but anyway, here's what I want to say about Auden. There were some people, maybe 80% thought Auden was going to win, 20% thought I was going to win. And of those 20%, there were some seasoned arm wrestlers that knew what they were talking about, that thought that the strength gap was going to be so big that it didn't matter what kind of setup Auden got. I was going to be able to win because that's how big the strength gap was. What impressed me about Auden is the strength gap was really close. Not the technique gap, not the setup gap, not the fucking yelling at refs gap. The strength gap was really close. Like, sure, when I got him inside, I felt way stronger than him, but he was also on, like, I fucking lat dragged him all the way to me. In the start, he was legit strong. It wasn't just some kind of trickery he was pulling. His hand was really good. And his side pressure too. I mean, I got in the Kings and I've got a pretty strong bicep. Like, I've got a really fucking strong bicep. And I had my wrist, and he fucking stretched my arm open like pretty easily. It only took 3 or 4 surges. So yeah, only when I had every link in my chain connected was I able to beat him. As soon as he took away a couple of the links in my chain, I was not like so much stronger that I was able to just overcome him. I needed every link in my chain to be connected to beat him. When he was able to smartly take away some of my links, I'm not sure of the word I'm looking for, anesthesia is still kind of in my head, but when he was able to, you know, figure out which links needed to be taken away, if I only had, you know, let's say 8 out of 10 links, I wasn't strong enough to overcome him. So the strength gap wasn't that big. That was very impressive to me. A couple more things I want to say. People talk about Auden's antics. They're like, no, I mean, blah, 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 this and that is all fine, but the antics is what I can't stand. I can't stand the antics. I can't stand the antics. Different strokes for different folks, as Greg Doucette says. Not everyone is going to be happy about the antics, but without sounding condescending, go look at the views on me and Auden's video. That's not just because of me. That's because of Auden. He knows how to sell pay-per-views, and ultimately these antics get pay-per-view sales. People used to hate, remember Conor McGregor? People were like, I can't fucking stand him. There have been lots of people, same with Devon. People are like, I can't stand the Devon antics. Well, guess what? He's the one making like a ton of pay-per-view sales. So at the end of the day, for the sport to grow, there needs to be money coming in. And as cool as like super stoic sportsmanship is, a lot of the time it doesn't really sell pay-per-views, just being honest. And that's why people say Devon has done so much for the sport, because a lot of it is an act, and that brings in money for everyone. The bigger you can make the events, the more eyes get put on the sport. All of a sudden people are watching Georgie Svetkov now, and people are watching this guy and that guy. And it's like, I personally wouldn't have heard of these people if it weren't for Devon. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. And now the new up-and-comer is Auden. And I see no issue with him, you know, imitating some of his dad's antics, because if you have a dad that you look up to, that you love and respect, I have imitated my dad in a lot of ways, just growing up with him, because I looked up to him. So obviously a lot of his little mannerisms rubbed off onto me. If you're inspired by your dad, that's just gonna happen naturally. So that's just what I have to say about that. And then manipulating versus cheating. That's the last thing I have on here. There is a difference between manipulating and cheating. Cheating is if you go and get a metal fucking rod installed in your arm and you don't tell anyone about it, and it makes it so your arm can never bend past here, right? And then you can't lose because you've got fucking rebar in your arm. That's cheating. If you manipulate the setup and the refs don't call it as they should be calling it. But if they don't, that is on the refs. That's not on the athlete. If the refs let me start like this every time with a fully cupped wrist, because that goes into my power, you can bet your fucking ass I would be starting like this every time. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna be a good sportsman. No, I'm gonna get every advantage I can. And if the refs don't call it, that is on the referees. If you're gonna be one of those people that's like, well, I could do this, but I'm not going to because, you know, it's against my code of ethics. Great. Your opponent's gonna do it though. If you're not like trying to get away with little shit, you're just fucking yourself, because your opponent is going to do that. So the refs didn't call it. They didn't call a lot of shit. They didn't call a false start in round one. I'll put it on the screen here. I guess over here, you can see the ref still has his hands on us, and you can see him saying "g," like he's saying the G in go. He hasn't said go yet, and his hands are still on us, and Auden's already pulled 3 inches backward and cupped his wrist in. How's that Auden's fault? The refs didn't call it. And I turned to the ref and said, that's a false start. And he said, oh. He didn't really say anything. He just kind of shook his head. So I should have like did a video review. I don't even know if that was an option. I didn't though. Anyway, that's my spiel. It is a bit of a shame because I felt like this match was perfectly timed. This was probably like my only chance to beat Auden, because he's just going to keep going up from here. He's just going to get heavier and heavier and stronger, and like his frame is just bigger than mine. So I'm probably never going to be able to match that from this point forward. So that's a fucking shame, but there's nothing you can really do about it. And yeah, I'm totally cool with going to another Challenger Series in the future though. I don't want to say when or where, but I'm training my left arm right now. We're gonna make lefty great again. People got 2 arms for a reason, man. And there's a lot of people, they get injured on their right and then they're just out of commission. Dude, you got 2 arms. Let's make lefty great. Let's make it just as hype as righty. So I'm looking for a match. If you guys have any recommendations, I'd love you to drop them in the comments. I do have to take prep seriously though for bodybuilding. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna be doing basic shit. Just basic hand and wrist strengthening. My arms already get trained from bodybuilding. I'll do a little bit of side pressure, nothing that's gonna jeopardize my bodybuilding prep at all. A light technique practice here and there on the table. But yeah, I'm gonna turn my left arm into a fucking cannon, and I'd like to see who you guys think I should pull. I'm down to do either 85 kilos, which is around 187 pounds. I'd have to water cut down for that, but that would be kind of cool. Like I've never actually water cut for something like that before. Or I'm down to pull 95 kilos, but that's gonna be kind of tough. Anyway, thanks for watching. Love you guys. Peace.